like this area is sore, but like my whole right side when I was training, he was like, it feels like it was super tight, like it was pulling.
Like the lat?
Yeah,
what's
like
going on?
like this side.
All
so
this
like,
was tight?
Yeah, like that
Tight?
that area, like my neck area this time.
Is it giving you headaches?
A little bit. I feel like I've been extra cracky of my neck.
Oh wow, this side is good.
It feels better, but I'm like this side's a little, like not a little tight maybe,
Yeah.
like this area. But
We'll work both sides just to make sure, but we'll
and then,
focus
like,
on the
maybe
right.
this area by my knees. I feel like I always have bad knees.
The knee
And then-
issue there.
And then
Yeah.
whatever else, I guess.
All right, let's see what we can do. Just a bunch of tightness
Yeah.
and a lot of drama. All
I'm
right.
trying to tell my friends to come. I'm like, look. I'm like, he's only gonna have Tuesday through Saturday though. So I'm like, you have to figure it out.
Today's session is very unique. This client comes in complaining that the right side of their upper body just seems to be overstressed, overworked, overtight, and also complaining that the knees are just a little too aggravated. This person is a very active person, not only in the gym, but outside the gym. They're a very business-minded entrepreneur person, so they're very active as well. So we're going to start with the knees. And I like to release tension off the patellar tendon. I like to do a little bit of manual therapy, warm up the tissue, and then move into a little bit of scraping. Flexing that knee up really stretches that patellar tendon just a little bit more. And here we use a bone. And I believe that every time I've used bone around joints, it seems to really bring out that synovial fluid just a little bit more and release any tension from the attachment point, the tendon, into the muscle groups. So now, why does a person have pain or tension or stress on one side and not the other? And I've learned in my 10 years of being a massage therapist, and also with all the studies that I've done, is the mind will only tell the body one side, either left or right, at any given time, unless it is a very highly stressed, almost close to injury. But the mind will only tell the body either left side or right side that it is overstressed, overworked, and it needs to de-stress and relax and needs a little bit of recovery time. So the approach to massage when you get these symptoms like this has to be very unique, and you have to be able to transition and adapt your techniques, your modalities, everything that you've ever learned. And I never believe that a person needs to know a certain modality or needs to know a certain technique. Massage is all about the value of touch. That's all it is. If you can deliver the value of touch to another person, the human body will understand and recognize the frequency of healing, where the body now goes past the stress mode and starts to de-stress and recover and accept a new healing frequency that it's been longing for. Now, going back to the knees, after releasing the patellar tendon, I like to work on the attachment points where it brings mobility with forward motion by working on the pes answering tendon and also releasing tension off that rectus femoris. And once we are finished completing releasing tension off the knees, now we're going to focus on the right side of the body. We're going to start with the anterior side, starting with the arms and working all the way up to the shoulders. Now, it's very good to assess the tone of the muscle tissue. Don't just always look for knots. Don't just always look for adhesions. As soon as you touch muscle, a muscle has certain tone, and a veteran massage therapist will understand if the tone is offset. And this is when I talk about frequency as well. So if you can match a certain tone that you know is a little stressed, you can cancel that tone and bring balance back into the body. So we're working into the forearms, doing not only trigger point therapy, but neuromuscular therapy, and even trigger point here on the bicep. Everything we're doing is to enhance mobility and bring more movement into the body, because when the muscles get stressed, so will the joints, and they will start to feel heavy not only in the body, but also emotionally. Even here, as I'm using the technique of gua sha with the piece of stone on the bicep, we're not using this to traumatize the bicep, but more release tension off the fascia. As a massage therapist, you have to very closely understand the fine line between treatment and trauma. So understand your tools, understand your modality, and enhance them by being able to transition them from client to client because not everybody always needs a deep tissue treatment. So we're looking to bring mobility, de-stress the tissue, and bring the active lifestyle back to this person where their body does not feel the heaviness of stress. So we're trying to manipulate all of that. Moving on to the teres minor and the teres major. While they're still face up, their arm is extended above their head. And we're going to start this one off with a little bit of scraping. Again, I like to use the bone on this area to very close to the shoulder joint. Plus, there's a lot of nerve endings and lymph nodes, so you don't want to traumatize this by using metal real close to this area. So I use bone, and it's very superficial work. And once we get the pliability opened up, we start releasing tension off that serratus. And here I'm actually going to start doing some trigger point therapy right on that subscap. Again, the subscap is a very unique muscle that gets misunderstood. Even if people have neck tension, will have a tight subscap. So one of the most misdiagnosed muscles is that subscap. So make sure you always tackle that accordingly to what the treatment needs to be and what the goal is in the outcome for the client. And there we did some trigger point therapy with some active stretching. And now we're moving on to the neck. Here we're approaching this very delicately. So I want to start with the capitis muscles. They're right on the base of the skull. And here I'm just doing some cross fiber friction. These can get really, really tight. So when I release those, then it allows me to really work on that levator and also being able to tilt the head as well. But so we're doing a little bit of, some people might call it active release treatment. And then once we get that released, it really allows movement with contralateral flexion of the head to really get into those scalings. Now, why I'm approaching it this way, it's not too traumatizing to the client. As you see, they're not squinting, they're not fighting me, they're still able to talk, they're not trying to get away from me. We are really trying to de-stress the body. So it's kind of like a puzzle where you have to find one muscle to alleviate the next muscle and then the next one. So don't just always go for that aggravated muscle. Go with active muscle groups and distal muscle groups to really get them to learn how to play together, because that's all we're looking for. We want these muscles to learn how to play together. And here we even added a little bit of trigger point work with her doing most of the active movement on the scalenes. And if some people don't realize, the scalenes, anytime there is any forward flexion or abduction of the arm, it closes up and really starts to raise ribs 1 and 2. So that can bring a lot of tension and manipulate blood flow into the body. So in turn can stress out, I should say, my correction, it can stress out one side of the body. So, and I always like to work on both sides just to bring a little bit more balance. And now finally getting her turned over, we're going to start with the low back. Since there's some neck tension and shoulder issues with the stress, I like to work from the low back and work on all the way up, just because those spinal erectors really attach all the way from the bottom of the spine all the way to the top. So in layers. So we always want to, at least for me, I always want to address from the low back all the way up to the top, just working right along the spine, and even loosening up those deep fiber fascial connections on that low back, which we all know is aponeurosis. So you bring pliability there, guess what? Everything starts to fall into place. Now moving up to the upper side on this right side, it is, here we're starting with trigger point therapy right on that teres minor and teres major, and even getting a little bit into that posterior serratus. This allows me to get a good read of how stressed out the muscle tissue is. And that only took a quick second because there was no trauma to the muscle. It's just very stressed. And here I wanted to show her what I was going to use for scraping, because this client was kind of like, oh, we're going to do scraping. Is it going to be painful? I showed her the 8-way heated scraper. The heated scraper is not an aggressive tool. You can't use a lot of pressure on it, but the heat alone just melts that fascia and gets everything to really start flowing the way it needs to, and it allows me to get a better read on the muscle, especially with the muscles on the back, since there's so many and they can be very dense. And here we even use them on the traps. So if there's one thing I always want LMTs to know is understand your client when they come into your room. Don't just look at pain and symptoms and conditions. Understand why it's there. What is it that the client is doing that it's there? How well are they dealing with the stress levels? So it could be psychological, it could be biomechanical, it could be social, or it could be all three. How they handle and deal with the stress. So that's going to allow you to really start to piece in together your approach to each session. So not everybody has to get elbows. Remember, always have a clear intention.
Miguel's the best. Honestly, I feel so much better. I've been to other people, and he literally is the best person in Vegas that I've ever been to, legit. So if your body is tight, make sure you get yourself worked out, and you will not miss out. So get it done.